Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. This is going to be the test review lecture for Act 1 and Act 2 of Romeo and Juliet. We're going to split the story into two. Act 1 and Act 2 is going to form a test, and then the remaining is going to form the second test for the story. Um, to start off with the study guide, all of the answers are going to come from, all the answers, excuse me, all of the questions on the test will come from one of two places. Okay, they will come from either this PowerPoint here that you're looking at, which has the study guide questions that we've gone over and you've worked numerously through these questions, excuse me, rigorously through these questions, and the answers were given in the other videos. Like I said, there was one um, video that I made. It was Act 1, Scene 3. So this slide you're looking at here, and it went ahead and finished all of um, Act 1 that was too long to post on the YouTube channel. So I'm trying to figure out a way to cut it to make it into two videos and post it on the YouTube channel. But if I can't, I'll just email it out. It'll be the best and fastest way to do that. And so just keep an eye out just in case I can't figure out that way, and that's why it'll be there. Okay, so since we've already gone over this, I'm not going to spend too much more time going over these questions. Just go ahead and be familiar with these, be able to answer them, be able to identify these literary devices that we talked about, such as the dramatic irony, right? That's in this example. Foreshadowing, which we talked about a lot, right? There's dramatic irony again. Foil, oxymoron, stuff like that, right? Um, but also the second half that the test is going to, or the second PowerPoint that the questions on the test will come from is this PowerPoint here. And anything that's discussed in this PowerPoint is fair game. It is not strictly going to be on Romeo and Juliet. In order to understand the author, or in order to understand the work, we have to know the author. We have to know his time frame or her time frame in which she was living and experiencing life. Everything that we do and experience is going to have an effect on our writing. That's why we need to understand the author. So any questions about William Shakespeare, right? Watch these videos again and it'll help you understand his life and a little bit more about him a little bit more. These questions can be or will be found um, on the test. It'll ask us about Shakespeare, where he's from, stuff like that. A little bit about his past life. Oh, I don't know why this is weird. Hang on. Let me see if I can get rid of that for you. There we go. A little bit about his life that is going to play a critical role in why he got into writing, right? Um, the forgotten times, those were very, very key elements. Um, the categories in which he writes in. Remember, we added that fourth one there, one of four categories. And if you could remember it while before I type it, it is kind of quiz yourself here: comedy, tragedy, romance, and historical, right? History. Um, be able to identify which one of these is the story that we're focusing on. Romeo and Juliet. What is it? It is the tragedy, right? The title itself is called The Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. Um, this video here is very, very helpful. Be able to identify and know what these 10 elements are. You may have to identify all 10. You may have to give an example of uh, one or more of these elements. Be able to do that and provide the line number. Okay, and here these elements are just broken down and defined there for you. This format of the plot for a Shakespearean tragedy is very, very important for us to remember. It breaks down the role each act as well as the title of what that role is, right? The exposition is to outline the conflict in the characters, and that is the role of Act One. Okay. The Globe Theater. It is a major, major piece of understanding Shakespeare. We need to know about it. Watch the video about the Globe, and not only does it explain a little bit about Shakespeare, but it also goes into the audience, society during this time, which is the key of understanding and analyzing a piece of literature, is to know about the author, but more importantly, to know about the time period that the author lived in, how he or she was molded by society, by the culture, and how that affected his or her writing as they um, grew up. So all of these are fair game, like I said. Remember, the Globe Theater that we see today is, in fact, a replica. It is a work of art that they were able to pull off this building to look like the original Globe during a time period where means of architecture had changed and improved, and technology has improved to a point where we don't even build this way anymore. Yet this architect was able to pull off this feat to build an exact replica of what the globe looked like back then, and it is very, very um, awesome that we still have at least this Globe Theater to look back on. Okay, these terms are fair game for the test. It is very, very important that you're not only able to define them, but also able to identify them. Blank verse, right? But more importantly, this right here, iambic. Let's see if I can do. Nope, I don't want to do that. Oh well, can't do it. I'm gonna try to highlight iambic pentameter. It's very, very important that you're able to measure feet in a poem, in a line of poetry. Okay? Remember, what does an iambic pentameter look like? It looks like this: the unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. Okay? Broken down, there's five of them. One, two, three, four, five. So 10 total syllables, five feet that are in iambic pentameter, right? Pentameter, 5 meters, okay? And an iamb form. This is an iamb, the unstressed followed by the stress. That is very, very important for the test, that you're able to identify it and also know what it is. Dramatic irony is one of those literary devices that we are focused on. It is very important that you're able to identify that as well as know what it means. Okay, we had several examples from the other PowerPoint that you can fall back on as reference. Foil, be able to identify who these characters would be, right? We went over one specific example in Romeo and Mercutio, right? It is vital that you're able to not only just not only just define these terms, but also to be able to put them into action and to identify them. Okay. I'm not saying that every single one of these terms is going to be on the test, but if it's here, it has a possibility. Some are obviously more easy to identify as others, right? We've hammered iambic pentameter in class, being able to measure this, being able to identify it, being able to count those syllables. Remember, syllables are the same as we've learned when we were kids. If it's easy for you to clap as you talk, do that. Whatever it takes to help you or help you to find these syllables the best way, right? Dramatic irony, you've heard it several times. It's probably going to be on the test. Foil, something like that, right? A monologue and I'm coming back to that slide, but a monologue and a soliloquy. Be able to identify the difference between the two. They may be similar, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're the same thing, right? Um, a simile and a metaphor. Know the difference between the two. And remember, it's not just a comparison that does not use like or as, right? It is comparing two unlike things. That's how we define these. A comparison of two unlike things, right? That is how we define a metaphor and a simile. A comparison of two unlike things that uses like or as. Okay? A metaphor is a little bit harder to identify which two things are being compared, so practice being able to identify what two things are being compared in our metaphor, whereas a simile it's a little bit easier, right? This compared to this, using like or as, well, you spot like or as and you identify the two things that it's comparing. Pretty easy. Whereas a metaphor can be a little bit tricky, right? If you can recall, go back to the Odyssey. Okay, go back to the Odyssey, and there was several times where we identified similes very, very quickly, very, very easily. Whereas metaphors, it took us a little bit longer to do that. All right, and splitting lines, the importance of a splitting line on how they indicate how close the relationship between the characters are and how they feed off of one another, right? Kind of like in Disney's Frozen, they finish each other's sentences, right? So take all myself, I take thee at thy word. In iambic pentameter, there must be 10 total syllables, 5 iambs. Well, clearly this line does not have 10 total syllables and 5 iambs, but Romeo's line here splits it, meaning he finishes her sentence to indicate how close these two characters are in their relationship, that he finishes her line figuratively in terms of the iambic pentameter and um, in the meter and form of poetry. Okay, so that's going to do it for our test review. I know it's pretty quick, but I had to make it all fit in one video. Um, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Um, I'll be available all day and all weekend. I'm going to get working on converting the grades that were submitted over the Easter break to change them from the I's to their permanent grades. Hopefully, everyone turned their homeworks in and submitted their quizzes. Um, I really want you to focus on how easy it is to fall behind, especially in an online environment where you go at your own pace. It is very easy to fall behind, where you say, well, we don't meet until a couple of days. I'll just kind of do this. And then eventually that time to do it is now, and you set yourself up in a hole that you have to dig your way out of. Just get it done, get it over with as fast as you can, but also focus on learning the material. Okay, I don't want you. I know a lot of people, especially now, we've been doing this for a little bit of time now. We may have realized that this is becoming more of a more likely scenario to continue. I just don't want you to go into or continue to have, if you did in the past, hopefully not, have this mindset of this is a vacation and we're going to take it easy. That's not the case. This is, in fact, school. We are still acting as if you were in class, right? You're going from a set time frame where you're expected to be able to be accountable as a student, and want to keep that mindset and keep being active and keep getting your work done on time and being the best student you can. And I hope everybody's doing good. If there are any questions, like I said, go ahead and feel free to reach out and email me. Um, I'll be available all weekend, like I said. And if there are any questions about the test, definitely reach out. Don't hesitate on that. All right. I hope everybody's doing good. Hopefully, we will be back in school soon. I miss you guys, and can't wait till we can get back to a what we would call a normal life. All right. Take care, fellas.